The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched high above like a crystal cathedral. 12 massive thrones sat in a perfect circle, each one carved from the rarest materials of different worlds. The beings who sat on these thrones ruled over thousands of star systems and billions of lives. They had done so for over 3,000 years. Park Hyun stood in the center of the circle, his simple black suit looking plain against the golden walls. He was the human ambassador, and right now he felt very small. The 12 alien leaders stared down at him with eyes that glowed, blinked sideways, or had no pupils at all. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like walking crystals. But they all shared one thing. They thought humans were nothing. "Honored council members," Park Hyun began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I come here today to discuss the new trade restrictions placed on human colonies. These rules make it impossible for our people to buy the medical supplies they need." A sound like breaking glass came from the Velkari throne. It was laughter. The Velkari leader, Zeth Mara, had skin like blue metal and 4 arms. Each arm ended in sharp claws that could cut through steel. "The little human speaks of needs," Zeth Mara said in a voice like grinding gears. "What does a species that barely crawled out of its gravity well know about need?" The other council members joined in the laughter. The sound filled the hall and made Park Hyun's ears ring. He had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years. In all that time, he had never been treated with respect. Humans were seen as the galaxy's newest children, weak, stupid, and unworthy of serious attention. "We have been part of the galactic community for 50 years, Park Hyun said, keeping his voice calm. "Our colonies produce food that feeds millions across 12 systems. Our scientists have made important discoveries. We deserve the same trade rights as other species." The laughter stopped. The Thraxian representative leaned forward on its throne. Vexthul looked like a giant insect with too many eyes. Its voice buzzed like a swarm of angry bees. "Deserve? You think you deserve anything, Pinkskin? Your species has existed for what, 200,000 years? We have been traveling the stars for millions. You are babies playing with toys you do not understand." Park Hyun felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry would not help his people. "All we ask for is fair treatment. Our colonies on the outer rim are struggling. Without proper medical supplies, people will die." "Then perhaps they should die," said the Korthak delegate. Muldain was a being of pure energy held in a crystal shell. Its voice sounded like music, but the words were cruel. "Natural selection is how species grow strong. If your people cannot survive without our help, maybe they are not meant to survive at all." The other council members nodded in agreement. Park Hyun felt sick. These beings controlled the fate of trillions of lives across the galaxy, and they spoke about death like it was nothing. "There is another matter," Zeth Mara said, its metal face twisting into what might have been a smile. "The council has decided that humans have expanded too quickly. Your species now controls 37 worlds. This is concerning." "Concerning how?" Park Hyun asked, though he already feared the answer. "Young species often become aggressive when they grow too fast," Vexthul buzzed. "The council has seen this before. It always ends badly. So we have decided to limit your growth." The words hit Park Hyun like a physical blow. "What do you mean, limit our growth?" Muldain's crystal form pulsed with light. "Starting immediately, humans are forbidden from establishing new colonies. Any ship found attempting to settle new worlds will be destroyed. This is for the good of the galaxy. You cannot do this, Park Hyun shouted, his calm finally breaking. Those are our ships, our people. You have no right. The laughter started again, louder than before. Zeth Mara stood up from its throne, all, 4 arms spread wide. Right? We are the Galactic Council. We have ruled this galaxy since before your son was born. We decide what rights exist, little human, and we have decided that your species needs to learn its place. Park Hyun looked around the circle of alien faces. Some looked amused, others bored. None looked sympathetic. This is wrong, he said quietly. History will remember this moment. It will remember what you chose to do here. History? Vex Thul's many eyes blinked in sequence. You think your brief existence matters to history? In 1,000 years when... Your species is forgotten dust. The Council will still rule. That is history, human. An old voice spoke from the back of the hall. It belonged to Keeper Vorthak, an ancient being whose job was to maintain the Council's records. There is something in the old archives, a warning about provoking, but I cannot remember clearly. Zeth Mara waved a dismissive claw. More superstition from the ancient times? The galaxy is different now. We are civilized. The archives speak of deep sleepers. Vorthak continued, his voice uncertain. Something about not waking those who should stay sleeping. But the records are damaged. I thought it referred to some long-dead species. Exactly, Muldain said, its form pulsing brighter. Dead and gone. The galaxy belongs to the living now, and we are its rightful rulers. Park Hyun straightened his jacket and looked each council member in the eye. I will return to Earth and deliver your message, but I want you to remember something. Humans have a saying, do not mistake patience for weakness. Today, you have made a grave mistake. Threats? Zeth Mara laughed again. From a species that still uses chemical rockets? How amusing! As Park Hyun walked toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the vast hall, Keeper Vorthak spoke once more. Wait, I remember now. The warning carved into the oldest monument on Veltar Prime. It says, do not provoke the deep sleepers, for they dream of war. The council members paid no attention to the old keeper's words. They were already planning their next move. Unknown. To them, they had just broken the oldest and most important rule in the galaxy. They had provoked the humans, and across the stars on a blue world called Earth, alarms were beginning to sound. 3 days after Park Hyun returned to Earth with the Council's demands, everything changed. The news reached every human world at the same time through quantum communication arrays. The message was simple and terrible. The colony world of New, Busan, had been destroyed. Lee Sora was eating breakfast in her quarters aboard the research ship New Seoul when the alert came through. She was a ship captain, not a soldier, but she had served in Earth's Navy before becoming an explorer. The emergency tone made her blood run cold. All hands to stations, she announced over the ship's communication system. Priority 1 message, incoming from Earth Command. Her crew of 30 scientists and engineers gathered in the main briefing room. They were good people, researchers studying ancient alien ruins on dead worlds. None of them had signed up for war. But as the message played on the main screen, Lee Sora saw their faces change. Admiral Kim Tae appeared on the screen, his weathered face grim. Behind him stood other high-ranking officers that Lee Sora recognized from news broadcasts. Citizens of humanity, Kim Tae began, At 0300 hours yesterday, the Galactic Council launched a devastating attack on our agricultural world of New Busan. The screen filled with images that made Lee Sora's stomach turn. The green fields and blue skies of New Busan were gone, replaced by a burning wasteland. 50 million people had lived there. Now there was nothing but ash and radiation. This was not a military strike, Kim Tae continued. This was murder. The council gave no warning, made no demands. They simply destroyed an entire world to send us a message. That message is clear. Submit or die. Dr. Han Nari, Lee Sora's chief scientist, was crying quietly. She had friends on New Busan, researchers she had worked with for years. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would they do this?" Kim Tae seemed to hear her question across the void of space. "They did this because they think we are weak. They think we will surrender rather than fight. They think humans are cowards who will run when faced with superior force." The Admiral's face hardened. "They are wrong." The screen changed to show President Song Min standing behind a podium. The leader of the United Earth government looked tired but determined. "My fellow humans," she said, "the Council has made a terrible mistake. They have awakened something they do not understand. For 50 years we have tried to be peaceful neighbors in this galaxy. We have followed their rules, accepted their limitations, and swallowed their insults. No more." Lee Sora felt something cold settle in her chest. She had seen that look before, during the water wars of her youth. It was the look of someone who had tried everything else and was now ready to do what must be done. Effective immediately, President Song Min continued, "All human military forces are mobilized. All reserve personnel are recalled to active duty. All civilian ships are hereby placed under military command. The galaxy wanted to see what humans are truly capable of. They will get their wish." The screen went dark. Lee Sora looked around at her crew. They were scientists, not soldiers, but she could see the change in their eyes. The same cold determination that she felt was spreading through them like ice water. "Captain," said her communications officer, Yoon Jae, "we're receiving new orders from Earth Command." Lee Sora read the orders on her personal tablet. Her research ship was being reassigned to something called Operation Deep History. She was to proceed immediately to the dead world of Kethmaran and investigate ancient ruins that had been sealed for decades. "Plot a course for Kethmaran," she ordered. "Maximum speed." As the new soul changed direction, Lee Sora thought about the galaxy's reaction to New Busan's destruction. The news networks were full of alien commentators talking about humanity's inevitable surrender. They spoke of humans like they were children who had finally learned their lesson. They had no idea what was coming. On Earth, President Song Min stood in the war room deep beneath the Capitol. The walls were covered with star charts showing every human world, every trade route, every military installation. General Oh Kyung and Admiral Kim Tae stood beside her, along with other leaders she had trusted with humanity's darkest secrets. "Status report," she said simply. General Oh Kyung stepped forward. He was a small man with gray hair, but his eyes were like steel. "All sleeper cells have been activated. Every human world is reporting ready status. The hidden shipyards in the asteroid fields are coming online." "The civilian fleet?" President Song Min asked. "Already converting," Admiral Kim Tae replied. "Every merchant ship, every passenger liner, every mining vessel. The Council thinks our civilian fleet is just cargo, haulers. They have no idea that every human ship was built with hidden weapon mounts and armor plating." President Song Min nodded. It had taken 50 years to plan this moment. 50 years of building ships that looked harmless but could be turned into warships in days. 50 years of training civilians in military tactics. 50 years of pretending to be weak while growing strong in secret. "What about the other species?" she asked. "Exactly as we predicted," said Beiwan, the head of human intelligence. He was a quiet man who seemed harmless, but he knew more secrets than anyone else in the galaxy. "They think New Busan's destruction will break our spirit. The Velkari are already planning victory parades. The Thraxians are betting on how long before we surrender." "And the ancient sites?" "Teams are already investigating. If the old stories are true, if we really are what the archives suggest, then the proof will be in those ruins." President Song Min walked to the main display showing the galaxy. Thousands of stars glittered like diamonds, and around many of them were worlds controlled by the Council. They thought they were safe. They thought their superior technology and ancient wisdom made them untouchable. "How long until our fleets are ready?" she asked. "Full mobilization in 72 hours, Admiral Kim Tae said. "But Captain, some of our forces are already moving. The Phantom Fleet has been running silent operations for years. They're in position." On her tablet, President Song Min composed a message that would be sent to every human world, every ship, every station. It was short and simple. "Remember New Busan. Remember what they took from us. Remember that we are human." Meanwhile, on the dead world of Kethmaran, Lee Sora's team was making a discovery that would change everything. Deep in the ancient ruins, Dr. Hanari had found a vault sealed with technology older than the Council itself. Inside were records written in a dozen extinct languages, all saying the same thing. "Captain!" Hanari called out, her voice shaking with excitement and fear. "You need to see this! These aren't just ruins! This is a warning! It's about us! About humans! It says we're not what we seem to be!" Lee Sora studied the ancient writings. Even though she couldn't read the symbols, she understood their meaning. The Council had made the same mistake their ancestors had made thousands of years ago. They had provoked a species that was far more dangerous than it appeared. Across the galaxy, humanity was waking up, and when humans woke up angry, the universe trembled. The first sign that something was wrong came when the Velkari trade fleet disappeared near the Hydra system. One day, 27 massive cargo ships were broadcasting their positions and following standard shipping routes. The next day, they were gone. No distress signals, no wreckage, no survivors. They had simply vanished. Zethmara stood in the command center of the Velkari homeworld, staring at empty space where the fleet's signals should have been. Its 4 metal arms clicked nervously against the control panels. "Find them," it ordered, its subordinates. "Deploy search vessels immediately." The search vessels found nothing. It was as if the entire fleet had been swallowed by the void itself. 3 days later, the Thraxian mining operation on Zerion 4 went silent. 40,000 workers and their families lived there, mining rare crystals that powered faster than light engines. The last message received was a routine production report, then nothing. When Thraxian warships arrived to investigate, they found the mining stations intact but empty. Every building, every vehicle, every piece of equipment was exactly where it should be. But every living being was gone. The only trace of what had happened was a message painted on the main administration building in bright red letters. "Remember, New Busan." Vexthul's many eyes blinked rapidly as it received the report. The giant insect-like being had ruled the Thraxians for 3 centuries, and it had never seen anything like this. "How is this possible?" it buzzed to its generals. "Our sensors detected no ships, no weapons, no disturbance at all." The reports kept coming. Korthak energy collectors vanished from their orbital platforms. Zephyrian research stations went dark. Council supply convoys disappeared without a trace. Each time, investigators found either nothing at all or cryptic messages referencing the destroyed human world. In the council chambers, the 12 leaders gathered for an emergency session. The great hall that had seemed so grand and imposing just weeks before now felt cold and threatening. Shadows seemed deeper, and every sound echoed ominously. "This is impossible," Muldain declared, its crystal form pulsing with agitated light. "Humans do not have the technology for this kind of stealth operation. Their ships are primitive, their weapons basic. They cannot simply make our fleets disappear." Keeper Vorthok shuffled forward from his usual place in the back of the hall. The ancient being looked more worried than anyone had ever seen him. "The archives," he wheezed. "I have been reading the old archives. There are stories, warnings about the Terrans." "The Terrans are extinct," Zethmara snapped. "They died out 10,000 years ago." "But what if they did not die?" Vorthak asked. "What if they only changed? What if they learned to hide what they truly were?" Before anyone could answer, every screen in the council chambers lit up with the same image. A human face appeared. A woman with short black hair and cold, dark eyes. She wore a simple gray uniform with no visible rank insignia. "Greetings, Galactic Council," the woman said in perfect council standard. "I am Commander Shin Yuna of the Human Stealth Fleet. You have been wondering where your ships and people have gone. I am here to tell you." The council members stared in shock. No human had ever hacked into their communication systems before. It should have been impossible. "They are safe," Shin Yuna continued. "For now. We have relocated them to secure facilities where they are being treated well. They will be returned to you when this conflict ends. But first, you need to understand something important. You think you are fighting humans. You are wrong." The image changed to show ancient star charts covered in symbols that made the council. Members' blood run cold. They were Terran symbols, the mark of the species that had once conquered half the galaxy through pure force. "We are Terrans," Shin Yuna said simply. "We never died. We simply learned that ruling through fear was inefficient. So we changed. We became explorers instead of conquerors, diplomats instead of destroyers. We hoped we could be something better than what we were." The image changed again, showing the burning remains of New Busan from space. "You took that choice away from us. You forced us to remember what we really are. Do you know what Terrans were famous for 10,000 years ago?" Zethmara's metal face had gone pale. "The siege of Kaltharan," it whispered. "They surrounded 7 star systems for 50 years. They turned entire worlds into prisons." "Very good," Shin Yuna said with a cold smile. "We perfected the art of making our enemies defeat themselves. We did not need to destroy your fleets. We simply made them irrelevant. Your trade routes depend on precise timing. Remove a few key shipments, and the entire system collapses." Across the galaxy, the truth of her words was becoming clear. Without their regular supply runs, factory worlds were shutting down. Without raw materials, shipyards could not build new vessels. Without fuel deliveries, entire star systems were going dark. The humans were not attacking the Council's military forces directly. They were attacking something far more vulnerable, the complex web of trade and logistics that held galactic civilization together. "Stop this," Vexthul buzzed desperately. "We can negotiate. We can reach an agreement." "Can we?" Shin Yuna asked. "You destroyed an entire world as a demonstration. 50 million people died because you wanted to send a message. What message do you think we should send in return?" On the bridge of the stealth ship Shadow of Terra, Commander Shin Yuna looked out at the stars through her ship's advanced sensors. Around her, dozens of similar vessels hung invisible in space, their hulls covered in technology that bent light and absorbed energy signatures. The Council had never detected them because they were using science that predated galactic civilization. "Ma'am," reported her tactical officer, Yung Wu, "all teams are in position. We can begin the next phase on your order." Shin Yuna thought about the crews of the vanished Council ships, now safely held in hidden facilities across human space. They were being treated well, better than the Council would have treated human prisoners. But they were prisoners nonetheless, proof that humans could reach anywhere they wanted in the galaxy. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. "But remember, we are not monsters. No unnecessary casualties. We are here to teach, not to slaughter." Yung Wu nodded and began transmitting orders to the fleet. Across the galaxy, invisible human ships began moving toward their next targets. Not military bases or weapons platforms, but something the Council valued more, their capital worlds. In the Council chambers, the transmission from Shin Yuna ended, leaving the 12 leaders staring at blank screens. For the first time in their long lives, they truly understood fear. "How many?" Zeth Mara asked quietly. "How many ships do they have that we cannot see?" Vorthak shuffled through ancient records with shaking hands. "According to the archives," he said in a voice barely above a whisper, "the Terrans once had a saying, 'For every ship you can see, there are 10 you cannot.' If that is true, then they could already be here." Muldain finished, its crystal form flickering with terror. "They could be watching us right now." Outside the Great Hall, invisible in the darkness of space, 3 human stealth ships hung motionless. Their crews watched and waited, ready to strike if the Council chose to escalate further. The galaxy's rulers had awakened something ancient and terrible, and for the first time in thousands of years, they were no longer the hunters. They were the hunted. Panic spread through the Galactic Council like a plague. Within 2 weeks of the stealth fleet's revelation, 3 more Council worlds had gone dark. Not destroyed, simply cut off from all communication and supply lines. Billions of beings found themselves trapped on their own planets, watching their technology fail as replacement parts and fuel stopped arriving. In the deepest vaults beneath the Council's capital world, Keeper Vorthak worked frantically through archives that had not been opened for millennia. Ancient data crystals crumbled at his touch, their information degraded by age, but slowly a terrifying picture began to emerge. "The Great Culling," he muttered to himself, reading from a crystal that glowed with dying light. "Year 747 of the old calendar. The Terran War reaches its peak. 17 species extinct. 43 homeworlds rendered uninhabitable. The Terrans demand unconditional surrender of all remaining civilizations." He found another crystal, this one containing the personal journal of an ancient Velkari commander. The metal being's words, recorded 10,000 years ago, seemed to speak directly to the current crisis. Day 1247 of the siege. The Terrans have not fired a single shot at our world, yet our civilization crumbles. They control our supply lines, our communication networks, our trade routes. We are dying not from their weapons, but from our own weakness. They force us to confront the truth, that all our power, all our technology, depends on systems we cannot protect. Vorthak's old hands shook as he read the final entry. The Terrans have offered terms: complete surrender and a promise to never again wage war on any species in exchange for our continued existence. We have accepted. May the gods forgive us, but we had no choice. High above, in the council chambers, desperate plans were being made. Zethmara paced back and forth on its four arms, its metal face twisted with rage and fear. We cannot let them win, it snarled. If we surrender to humans, every species in the galaxy will see us as weak. Our authority will collapse. Our authority is already collapsing. Vexthul buzzed nervously. 6 of our member species have stopped responding to our calls. The Andromedans are talking about withdrawing from the Council completely. Then we use the final option, Muldain said, its crystal form pulsing with desperate light. The Planet Killers. A horrified silence fell over the chamber. The Planet Killers were weapons of absolute destruction, capable of turning entire worlds into dead rocks floating in space. They had been built after the Terran War as a last resort, a final guarantee that no species could ever again threaten galactic civilization. The humans will not expect it, Muldain continued. They think we are civilized beings who would never resort to such measures. We strike at Earth itself, at the heart of their power. Without their homeworld, they will have no choice but to surrender. Zethmara's metal eyes gleamed. Yes, we broadcast the attack across the galaxy. Let every species see what happens to those who defy the Council. Let them see that we are still the ultimate power. Unknown to the Council, their secret meeting was being watched. High in the shadows of the Great Hall, a device no larger than a coin recorded every word. The technology was Terran in origin, ancient beyond measure, and completely invisible to Council sensors. Light years away, on the bridge of the human dreadnought Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Park Sua listened to the Council's plan with cold anger. She was a small woman with gray hair and scars on her hands from years of military service. Her crew had nicknamed her the Iron Lady for her ability to make impossible decisions without hesitation. "They want to use planet killers," she said to her assembled officers. "They want to destroy Earth." Commander Im Day, her second in command, looked shocked. "Surely they would not dare. The radiation alone would poison half the solar system. Billions of innocents would die." "They are desperate," Admiral Park Sua replied. "Desperate beings do desperate things, but they have made 2 critical mistakes. First, they assume we have not planned for this possibility. Second, they think we will react emotionally instead of strategically." She turned to her communications officer. "Signal all human fleets, implement Contingency Omega, and send a message to the Council. I want to speak with them." An hour later, every screen in the Council chambers showed Admiral Park Sua's weathered face. Behind her stood the bridge of a ship that dwarfed anything in the Council's fleet. The technology visible in the background was clearly advanced, but somehow ancient at the same time. "Honored Council members," she began with mock politeness, "we intercepted your little planning session. We know about the planet killers. We know about your plan to destroy Earth." Zethmara leaped to its feet. "Impossible! Our chambers are completely secure." Are they? Admiral Park Sua smiled coldly. You forget that we built half the technology you use. Did you really think we would not leave ourselves ways to monitor your activities? The screen behind her changed to show technical schematics that made the council members gasp in recognition. They were detailed blueprints of the planet killer weapons, complete with security codes and operational procedures. These weapons were never your creations, Admiral Park Sua continued. They were ours. We gave you the technology after the last war, with certain modifications. You see, we learned something important 10,000 years ago. The best way to control dangerous weapons is to make sure you are the only one who truly understands how they work. Vexthul's many eyes blinked rapidly. What are you saying? I am saying that your planet killers will not fire on Earth. They will not fire on any human world. In fact, they will not fire at all. Because we control them. We have always controlled them. The council members looked at each other in growing horror. If the humans controlled their ultimate weapons, then they had no defense left. But that is not all, Admiral Park Sua said, her voice growing colder. You want to play with planet killers? Very well. Let me show you what real planet killers look like. The screen changed to show a view of space near the council's capital. World. What they saw there made their blood freeze. Dozens of massive ships hung in the void, each one the size of a small moon. They were ancient in design but clearly functional, their hull plating scarred by countless battles. These are Terran dreadnoughts, Admiral Park Sua explained. Ships that we built to fight wars you cannot imagine. Each one carries enough firepower to sterilize a dozen worlds. They have been waiting in the deep spaces between stars for 10,000 years, ready to awaken if they were ever needed again. Muldane's crystal form flickered weakly. How many do you have? Enough, was all Admiral Park Sua said. But we do not wish to use them. Destruction is easy. Any fool with a weapon can destroy. The difficult thing, the truly challenging thing, is to build something better from the ashes of the old. She leaned forward, her eyes boring into the camera. You have one chance, one opportunity to avoid the complete annihilation of your civilizations. I am sending you a human negotiator. His name is Lim Hoon. You will treat him with respect. You will listen to his terms. And you will accept them. And if we refuse? Zethmara asked, though its voice lacked its usual arrogance. Then you will learn why the galaxy spent 10,000 years trying to forget that Terrans ever existed, Admiral Park Sua replied. The choice is yours, but choose quickly. My patience is not unlimited. The transmission ended, leaving the council members alone with their terror. Outside their chambers, invisible human ships waited like hungry wolves. And in the deep spaces between stars, ancient dreadnoughts began to move toward the core worlds of galactic civilization. The Council's age of dominance was ending. The only question now was whether it would end with negotiation or with fire. Keeper Vorthak looked up from his ancient records with tears in his old eyes. We should have remembered, he whispered to the empty archive chamber. We should have remembered the most important rule of all, never wake the sleeping giants. But it was too late for remembering. The giants were awake, and they were very, very angry. The human negotiator arrived at the council chambers 3 days later. Lim Hoon stepped off his shuttle without guards, without weapons, and without fear. He was a tall man with silver hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. The council members, who had once looked down on humans as inferior beings, now found themselves unable to meet his gaze. "Honored Council," Lim Hoon said as he walked into the Great Hall, "I bring terms from the United Human Government. These terms are not negotiable. They are not suggestions. They are the price of your continued existence." Zeth Mara tried to summon its old arrogance, but its voice came out weak and uncertain. "You cannot simply dictate terms to us. We are the legitimate government of this galaxy." "Were," Lim Hoon corrected with a slight smile. "You were the legitimate government. That ended when you chose to commit genocide against an entire human world. Legitimacy, I have learned, is something that must be earned each day. You lost yours the moment you destroyed New Busan." He walked to the center of the chamber and activated a holographic projector. The air filled with images of the galaxy, showing every star system, every trade route, every populated world. Red markers appeared wherever human forces had taken control. There were thousands of them. "As you can see," Lim Hoon continued, "the transition of power is already complete. Your fleets are captured or disabled. Your supply lines are under our control. Your communication networks answer to us. The war is over. You lost." Vexthul's many eyes blinked in sequence. What do you want from us?" "Peace," Lim Hoon said simply. "Real peace, the kind that lasts, but peace on our terms, not yours." The hologram changed to show a new star chart. The galaxy was divided into zones, each one marked with different symbols. "First," Lim Hoon began, "the Galactic Council is hereby dissolved. In its place, we are establishing the Galactic Peace Authority. Each species will maintain control of their traditional territories, but all disputes between species will be mediated by human arbitrators." "You cannot expect us to accept human rule," Muldain protested, its crystal form flickering with anger. "We do not want to rule you," Lim Hoon replied. "Ruling you would require us to care about your internal politics, your cultural disputes, your economic problems. Frankly, we have better things to do. We want to be left alone to explore the universe and advance our knowledge, but we will not allow any species to threaten others the way you threatened us." The hologram showed the next part of the terms. Human monitoring stations appeared throughout the galaxy, positioned at key strategic points. "Second, we are establishing a network of peacekeeping bases. These will be staffed by human personnel and equipped with the weapons necessary to enforce galactic law. Any species that attempts to wage war on another will face immediate intervention." Zeth Mara's metal face contorted with rage. "This is intolerable. You are making us prisoners in our own galaxy." "Are we?" Lim Hoon asked mildly. "Let me tell you what you are free to do. You can govern your worlds however you choose. You can practice any religion, follow any philosophy, create any art. You can trade with other species, explore new worlds, advance your science and technology. The only thing you cannot do is hurt others." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Tell me, in what way does that make you prisoners?" The council members looked at each other, realizing they had no answer. For 3,000 years, their power had been based on the ability to threaten and dominate others. Take that away, and they had no idea how to function. "Third," Lim Hoon continued, "reparations. You destroyed New Busan and killed 50 million innocent people. The families of those victims deserve compensation, and the galaxy deserves to see justice done." The hologram showed massive construction projects beginning throughout Council space. "You will provide the labor and materials," to build 50 new cities throughout human space. You will do this willingly and without complaint. It will take approximately 50 years to complete. Consider it a reminder of the cost of your actions. 50 years of forced labor? Vexthul buzzed in horror. Community service, Lim Hoon corrected. Your people will be paid fair wages and treated with respect. They will learn human construction techniques, human engineering principles, and human values. Many of them, I suspect, will choose to stay and become citizens of human worlds when the work is complete. The final part of the terms appeared on the hologram. New monuments were being erected on every council world, massive structures carved from the hardest stone available. On each one, the same message was written in every known language. Fourth and finally, Lim Hoon said, education. Every child in the galaxy will learn the true history of the Terran War. They will learn what happens when civilizations choose conquest over cooperation, and they will learn the most important lesson of all, the rule that your ancestors forgot. The monuments showed their inscriptions clearly. Do not provoke humans. They showed mercy once. They may not show it again. Keeper Vorthak shuffled forward from his usual place in the back of the hall. The ancient warnings, he said in a trembling voice. We should have listened to the ancient warnings. Yes, Lim Hoon agreed. You should have. But the past cannot be changed, only learned from. The question now is whether you will accept these terms and help us build a better future, or whether you will force us to use more direct methods of ensuring compliance. Zeth Mara looked around at its fellow council members. They were afraid, all of them. The beings who had once ruled the galaxy with absolute power were now reduced to begging for mercy from a species they had dismissed as primitive. We accept, Zeth Mara said quietly. All of you? Lim Hoon asked, looking at each council member in turn. One by one, they nodded or gave whatever gesture their species used to indicate agreement. They had no choice. The alternative was the complete destruction of their civilizations. Excellent, Lim Hoon said with satisfaction. The transition will begin immediately. Human peacekeeping forces are already moving to their assigned positions. Your military commanders will receive new orders within the hour. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. He deactivated the hologram and picked up his projector. Oh, and one more thing. Ambassador Park Hyun, whom you treated so poorly during his time here, has been promoted to Director of Galactic Affairs. He will be your primary contact with the human government. I suggest you treat him with more respect than you showed before. As Lim Hoon walked toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the silent hall, Muldain called out desperately, "Wait! What if we had chosen differently? What if we had never attacked New Busan? Would things have been different?" Lim Hoon stopped and turned back. For the first time since entering the chamber, his expression softened slightly. "Perhaps," he said. "Humans are not monsters, despite what you may think. We genuinely tried to be peaceful neighbors. We offered friendship, cooperation, mutual benefit. You chose to respond with violence and contempt." He gestured toward the empty thrones around the chamber. "You could have been partners in exploring the universe. Instead, you chose to be a cautionary tale. The galaxy will remember you not as great rulers, but as the fools who awakened sleeping giants and paid the price for their arrogance." Years passed. The galaxy adjusted to its new reality. With surprising speed, the human peacekeeping stations became centers of trade and learning. The construction projects on human worlds proceeded ahead of schedule, as alien workers discovered that humans treated them far better than their own governments ever had. Children, throughout the galaxy grew up learning about the importance of cooperation over conquest. The monuments to human mercy and alien folly became pilgrimage sites, places where beings came to reflect on the costs of pride and the benefits of humility. On Earth, in a simple office overlooking the blue oceans of humanity's birth world, Director Park Hyun reviewed reports from across the galaxy. Crime rates were down. Trade was flourishing. Scientific advancement was accelerating as species shared knowledge instead of hoarding it. His aide, a young woman named Kang Hai, brought him the weekly summary. "Another peaceful week, Director," she reported. "No conflicts, no violations of the peace accords. The Andromedans are even asking for permission to establish a cultural exchange program with the Zephyrians." Park Hyun smiled. "Good. Schedule a meeting with their ambassadors. Cultural exchange is exactly the kind of cooperation we want to encourage." As Kang Hai left to make the arrangements, Park Hyun turned to look out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human peacekeepers maintained their vigilant watch. Ancient Terran dreadnoughts waited in the darkness between galaxies, ready to respond if they were ever needed again. But Park Hyun hoped they would never be needed. The galaxy had learned its lesson, paid its price, and chosen a better path. Humans had proven they could be terrible when provoked, but they had also proven they preferred to be gardeners rather than destroyers. The oldest rule in the galaxy was carved in stone on 1,000 worlds. Do not provoke humans. But perhaps, Park Hyun thought, it was time to add a new rule, a better rule, a rule that would guide the galaxy toward a brighter future. Choose cooperation over conquest. Choose understanding over fear. Choose peace over war. And across the galaxy, on worlds both alien and human, children of every species learned that lesson by heart.